Hello, this is Carl, also known as Zarepath in the custom magic community, and I wanted to do a quick video about a custom set that I wanted to check out. It's called Quasar, and it is a spotlit project in the custom magic Discord, as you can see here. Um, it's done by Inverted Vertex. It's a sci-fi set, so one of my favorite settings, as we know from Metropolis. For custom magic cards. And you can find more information about it in the custom magic Discord. But I wanted to just look at the cards. I haven't looked too closely at the cards. I've seen some individual ones. I think I've seen the mechanics before a little bit, but not a lot. Just wanted to give a reaction to it and hopefully give some good feedback while it's a spotlight project in the Discord. So I'm just going to do a sealed and talk about each of the cards. Um, and I need to join as a player. Let's start. Okay. Now, one of the first things you'll notice about this set is that it has custom frames, which I really appreciate. I think a lot of custom magic work, we stay too closely within the frames and borders of magic, literally and figuratively, and I like experimenting with the visual effect of the cards as well. And a lot of great work has been done on them, and it definitely makes the set pop and feel different. All right, so let's look at the artifacts here. So sync is an ability um, where, if a creature has sync, it has all activated abilities of all permanents with sync you control, as you can read there. I worry a little bit that this creates a lot of onboard complexity. If you have multiple things with sync, your opponent is like, wait, they both have either ability. Um, this one obviously doesn't have anything else with it, which you can do, I think. But then you start to see some more I was going to say the other ones all have activated abilities, but this one also doesn't. Maybe that's one way to lower the complexity. If you have several creatures with sync but don't have activated abilities of themselves, the first time you play a creature that has sync and an activated ability, then I'm just looking quickly for one that has sync, but I'm not finding one right here. If the ASFAN of sync, like the number of cards with sync that you'll see in a typical pack, is pretty low, then I think these sync creatures that don't have additional abilities kind of feel a little off. But we'll see. This card seems kind of bad. It seems kind of expensive. It does allow you to sacrifice other things with sync. I bet you could have this just cost one. Well, it does give you a little bit of ramp. Maybe it's better than I think. But that does seem like, 2 mana to basically get a gold token. I don't know. This might be a little complex for common. It's got 2 different whenever conditions, so that's a lot of, a couple things to keep track of for an equipment that's probably going to stay around for most of the game. So it basically grants vigilance and lets you scry 1 when you attack. I wonder why whenever it deals combat damage you may untap it. Why not just have it grant vigilance? I don't know. Well, something to think about. Um, Sync might be really powerful depending on the other activated abilities. I'm just trying to think of the justification for the 1/1 flyer to have, to cost 3, because otherwise it looks kind of unappealing. But I wonder if there's a sync deck. Maybe that's what I'll try and build with this pool, is see how far I can push sync. This is very strong common. I think I read something on the Mothership recently about how flyers that grant flying to your other creatures, they don't want that at common so much anymore, just because it can lead to very swingy, aggressive moves. Built to Last is a good reprint because there's artifact creatures in this set. I like that this aura gives you it negates the card disadvantage of auras if you get 2 for 1. I like this artifact removal spell. Although you can do an interesting thing when you have a lot of artifact creatures, because I think there's colored artifact creatures in this set. Yeah, you can see here, which look pretty good with the new frames, I will say. You can make your artifact removal become better and more important, like much more main deckable, which leads to a different feel of format, like in Mirrodin, where Shatter was like, a bomb common pick because it removed anything. Uh, or you can kind of gimp your artifact removal in this fashion so that it feels the same as it did before. And also it doesn't, punish players for having lots of artifact creatures. I worry that this is giving too many different keywords at common. Like that's a lot of different things to keep track of, especially considering it's going to be hidden on a card underneath another card, and your opponent's probably going to forget all the keywords that the thing has. It feels more uncommon, if I'm being honest. Neutralize. Is that already a magic card name? I don't know. I'd kind of be surprised if it's not, but I feel like Vigilance and being untapped might be some kind of sub-theme, although I'm not sure why yet, because I haven't seen all of the cards. Just between this and Sensor Array. Seems to be something important about being untapped. Okay, seems fine. +1/+2 is kind of an awkward buff for an attack, because you really want more power than toughness, because usually when you do this you're trying to win the game. More vigilance granting. So this is I guess the greater toughness and the vigilance kind of send the same message that maybe you're not winning the game with this, but it lets you have a profitable attack and you have most of your creatures survive and then be able to block the following turn because they have vigilance. Okay. Divine Verdict. 04. Very good. Okay, leveling. Leveling is another thing that's been brought back, but in an interesting way, in that normally, it's not level up. Okay, so level up has baked in a cost that you can pay to add the counters. It seems like there's a cycle at common that's like that, where you pay a specific cost and it will add level counters, but there's other ways to level up as well. It seems like each card has a different condition for leveling up. And as I get to that, I'll talk more about it. I think this is a finely costed card. Also talking about the change in aesthetics, just the way cards are presented. Inverted Vertex has also done an interesting thing in that he's decided to bold keywords, just make them bold so they pop more. It's more obvious what abilities creatures have. I think that's fine. I don't know if, when you have 2 abilities in a row like this, flying, lifelink, capitalizing the second one is a conscious choice that they've made, or just being incorrect, because normally on normal Magic cards, you don't capitalize the second one in a list. But that might just be a stylistic choice. Losing all abilities, so I guess in a world with sync, that's important. Um, Seems fine. Oh, yeah, there's definitely a tapped untapped thing here. Because this is, whatchamacallit, Refraction Helix, or whatever it's called, from Born of the Gods. I don't know that I like it untapping a creature, because normally you want your untap effects to pair with these spells, but you want to cast a spell, have them use the ability, and then untap them so they can use the ability again. Then the player feels really clever and they can go off. In this case, they're not going off. You're just untapping a creature. Well, when would you want to untap a creature to use this ability? So you have a creature, and it's attacking. So like after you declare attackers, before they can declare blockers, then you can untap your attacker and bounce one of their potential blockers. That could work. I just kind of prefer Refraction Helix here, especially if you already have these other ways to untap your creatures to get, the bonus. I like combining the two cards or the two abilities together so that players feel more clever for finding the combination as opposed to having it all in one card. Of course, even then, the combo doesn't exactly work on this card by itself. So I'm not sure. Can't be blocked. Artifact creature seems fine. This seems finely cost, although I don't know if you want an evasive hexproof guy at common. I don't know. I mean, you do have to sink, 6 additional mana into it for it to become the flying hexproof person. That does help you end games and can be removed before then. So maybe that's fine. Maybe that's a fine way to incorporate hexproof at common. The other player can see it coming and knows that you're going to have to invest more for that to happen, and maybe they can punish you for that by saving their removal. That seems fine. Yeah, so here's a conditional level up card. Whenever you draw one or more cards, so this is just going to happen because you will draw at the beginning of your turn no matter what. And appropriately, it doesn't get much of a bonus as you level up, because there's the condition isn't so much a condition as it is a time-based thing. Something I just noticed is that previously level up you had different power and toughness for each level, and here it's just the same power and toughness. And I actually really like that because it looks so much cleaner and you're keeping track of fewer things, which was a problem with level up. There are just so many variables. This is really strong. Being able to scry 1 on a defensive body repeatedly. I mean, what was that, Starfish in Theros, or Journey to Nyx, or whatever it was called? That was uncommon, I think. And it never was able to scry 2, just 1 each turn. So this might be too strong for common. You have Granting of Hexproof and scry 2. Seems okay, except there seems to be a lot of hexproof. You have this here too. I think typically those are 4/5s for 6, but I think 4/4 is probably okay too. Yeah, so we have this that has hexproof, we have Granting of Hexproof, and we have this evasive hexproof guy. I think it might be too much hexproof. I think that you probably want to switch some of that out. Lots of vigilance and untapping, lots of hexproof. Bug in the System, I think that's a delightful card. I really like it. I don't think that this effect is worth sacrificing a creature for. I think that the types of players that enjoy sacrificing creatures and are okay with it, the more spiky players, understand that the effect is not good enough. That this burn isn't really worth a card in most decks, and it's certainly not worth a card and one of your creatures. And I think that the players that enjoy the burn and the life gain don't like sacrificing their creatures, so I don't like that design. Whenever another creature dies, yeah, I like that. That seems okay. One issue I have with all these cards having unique conditions for leveling up, other than the you know, this common 5-card cycle where it's just typical level up, is it becomes very complicated on these boards that already have sync, where you're trying to keep track of all the activated abilities that the sync creatures have, but also all the different level up conditions. Like when you think through a play, you have to think, okay, um, which level up conditions is this going to hit? If I sacrifice this creature, that levels him up, and what does that mean? Um, so on and so forth. So I'm curious how it plays. Something I'd like to do more in these videos is to actually play test, but I need to have more reliable playtest sessions for that to happen. Final Defiance. I think that's a reprint. Maybe Black wants stuff to die. Grim Salvage. Oh, yes. That's a reprint from Kaladesh, maybe? I don't know. But I like this card. However, how many artifacts are you going to be returning? Like, for example, okay, there's an artifact creature in black. It's pretty delightful. It doesn't seem like there's many artifacts. Even though there are these common artifact creatures, there's not a lot of them. Maybe that's okay. Lifelink and indestructible. I like that. Okay. Wow. Okay, this is a sync card worth building around. 2/3 for 3 is an okay rate. And then its ability to burn out an opponent over time is pretty good, especially if all of your sync creatures are doing it. When you get up to turn 6, you can deal 3 to them each turn. With that also. Huh. The problem is, on their own, the sync creatures aren't that great. Like the 1/1 flyer. Like if this was just printed with that other ability, I still don't think it would be that great. Like if it had baked in the Shadow Stalker ability on this, yeah, still not great. Because you can just fly in and deal the 1 damage by attacking. Okay, I like that. Um, Something that I explored a little bit in Metropolis but didn't execute very well on is black and red caring about artifact cards in your graveyard. So they had a sacrifice theme and caring about artifacts in your graveyard. And I like that space for black and artifacts. I think this is just a very clean, satisfying execution on that. Can't block, it's a 3/1. From your graveyard to your hand. This feels like an uncommon. It seems like the kind of design that Wizards likes at uncommon these days. Just because it's repetitive gameplay and you're kind of cheating, right? You're kind of breaking the rules by getting this creature back forever. But I kind of like it at common. I kind of like it's one of the most evocative aspects of black, being able to, recur your creatures, and it's only itself that gets recurred. So it can't be too broken. It's kind of dirtly, but it's okay. Oh, 2/1 for 2 that when it dies, you draw a card. That's super good. That's incredibly good. Um, it can trade with other 2-drops and put you up a card. It can sometimes trade with 3-drops, if it's a 3/2 for 3. Uh, this is quite strong. Very strong. And possibly, well, I think it's too strong. If it were a, I don't know, maybe if it couldn't block, uh, yeah, something to think about. And then I just like that. This works especially well with Grim Salvage, because this allows you to trade this with early creatures that normally you wouldn't want to waste your Death Touch creature on, but then get it back later. Give you some good card advantage. I think that's a fun play pattern. Grim Salvage and Null Spawns. Blitz Squad. I had a card named Blitz Squad. Whenever it attacks. Okay. That seems like a very red condition. So I did complain about perhaps there being too much complexity of all of the conditions being different. However, I have liked the choices of conditions. They don't feel too difficult. Like, you're going to want to attack with your creatures if you're red. It kind of makes sense. Of course, the bonuses aren't that huge either. This is an interesting approach to making red feel a little trickier and forcing them to attack your opponent's creatures to attack into you. It seems fine. So this helps you level up, and it grants haste. This and this feel like they're competing for the same space of the kind of niche 1-mana effect that can also give you a card. Of course, Field Rush doesn't give you a card, but it feels like that kind of design where you grant haste and draw a card, or all your creatures get first strike, you draw a card. I feel like this design may just want to be draw a card, you can put a level counter on a creature or artifact you control. I don't see this card getting played often, to be honest, because both modes, I mean, it's one mode, but both sides of that mode are pretty niche. And if I'm doing a level up deck, I want to feel cool and clever. When I am using the level up bonus synergy cards, I suppose, what's the coolest thing you can do with this? You play your Blitz Squad, and you grant it haste, and put a level counter on it, but even that just gets it to level 2. It doesn't give you a special, it gets you closer to it having first strike, like the next turn when you attack with it, it will be a 3/2 first strike. But adding level counters doesn't, when you look at Venerated Teacher from Rise of the Eldrazi, it grants 2 level up counters, and I think there's a reason for that. If your card is only granting counters, it needs to be more than just one, because most of these level up things you want to get to level 3 as soon as possible, because 1 and 2 isn't that exciting. And I think when you're going for the synergy, you want it to be exciting. So this design as is, I would suggest that it puts 2 counters on instead of just 1. This seems a fine design. Black is more of the color that can't block. Red is more the color that attacks each turn if able. And I think this is an appropriate nerf for Boggart, whatever it's called, the 3/2 Menace for 3, which is a very strong card. And this, helps it still feel strong, but at least not be quite so strong in other scenarios where you can't be attacking. This ends up being kind of wordy. What's the value of gaining control of an artifact? So what do you get to gain control of? You can gain control of an equipment. You could steal their power cell, but they can sack it in response, because that's what you would be doing. And all the other meaningful artifacts are already creatures, at common anyway. Like, this might be useful for some bomb non-creature artifacts at uncommon and rare. But I'd suggest just making it a creature, because a lot of these, or you could have it be gain control of target creature until end of turn and untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. If that creature is an artifact, then it deals 3 damage to that permanent's owner. So, well, I don't know that I like that either. But I think just making it a creature would help simplify it a bit. There's some ramp. I like this. This is like 2 mana red ramp. Yeah, I really like that design actually. This feels feels like red ramp in a very red way, and you can get blown out by it a bit, but red kind of plays into that risk, high reward strategy. I like that a lot. And you can also get one of that mana back the same turn, which also feels red in my opinion. Activate abilities of permanents you control. Well, I guess the level up abilities, the ones where you have to pay mana, sync abilities. This almost feels like a sync design. Like maybe this creature should have sync, because then all of your sync creatures can help pay for the mana for your other sync creatures to pay for the other abilities. I don't know. But even if it doesn't have sync, if you have other creatures with sync, this can help you pay for those abilities. Although I will say we've only seen one that requires mana. And we're at 4 or 5 colors so far. It really looks like a blue card, though, I will say. It seems like a very blue thing. But I'm not convinced it's a break, just something to think about. Yeah, so here's something you could use that for. Kinetic Agent on turn 2. This on turn 4. Turn 5. Or, even better, turn 2 this. On turn 3, you put Harness Aggression on your agent and attack with it. I don't know what you do with your additional mana on that turn. But then turn 4, oh no, that doesn't work. I was going to say you attack with it and you have 5 mana, so then you can play that with haste. But you can't because you have to attack to get the mana. Anyway, on turn 5, you could play this and give itself haste. So it becomes a 4/3 haste for 5. I actually really like that. I like this design a lot by itself, even if the other synergy I was looking at doesn't actually work. Discard a card, draw 2 cards. Yep, fine ability. Maybe this can help you put null spawns in your yard to return with Grim Salvage later. Whoa. Oh, okay. So I just realized, I was looking at this and thinking, man, there's a lot of these granting of abilities to creatures. But I just realized if you grant Run and Gun or Fabricated Retreat to a Sky Skimmer, that gives the ability not just to Sky Skimmer, but also to Adaptive Servitude, everything else with Sync. So it's not just the printed activated abilities, but the activated abilities that you grant it. And that's why we have these tap abilities on spells that you're granting to your creatures. That seems like a very satisfying, Johnny modality strategy to incorporate with Sync. Yeah. Shock. I like it. Okay. I kind of wish that this was a bigger bonus for having an artifact card in your graveyard. Like if it costs 2 less instead. Because it costing just 1 less doesn't feel like that great of a bonus. And a 5/4 for 6 isn't that great. But a 5/4 trample for 4 is really great. Okay. It's a reprint, I think. Okay. Artifact creature tokens. Yep. It's a big buff. That might be a little swingy. It's probably fine. I'm wondering if this pairs with the blue can't be blocked thing, but realistically, are we going to pay 3 mana to give this +2/+0, hit them for 4, and then pay an additional 2 mana just so you can get a token? I don't know. There's a lot of token creation here. This is really strong. Very strong. Like that green card in Rivals of Ixalan. Was it Rivals or just Ixalan? There was a Merfolk, there was a 2/2 for 3, and you got an additional Merfolk when you played it. Yeah, that makes a droid, that makes a droid, that makes a droid. I wonder if green-white is go wide, because we have the white, this thing, press the attack, that I talked about earlier. This feels kind of white, but, you know, it's a one-man fog. I guess that works okay. I skipped this guy. Okay, is this a reprint? At least of the stats? It seems okay, I like it. Oh my gosh. Wow. This is really strong. Well, okay, you do have to tap to do the fight. A lot of times, one of the best aspects of fight, the most powerful parts of it, is you have your big creature fight their big creature and kill it, and then you attack. Or they have one creature on the board, you fight and kill it, and then you can swing in. In this case, you would not be able to then swing in with your creature. But I was just thinking, you know, if you can then untap this somehow, oh my goodness. Of course, what are our untap options? We do have Fabricated Retreat that would untap it and grant it yet another ability. So that becomes a little redundant. What I'm really looking for is a blue thing that maybe untaps target creature, gains hexproof until end of turn. So that you can do these like run and gun or on the hunt or fabricated retreat, use it on the creature, and then untap it and do it again. But maybe that's not the way you want to abuse these spells. Maybe the best way to abuse it is putting it on a sync creature. Then everything you control gets +1/+1, or all your sync creatures do, and then they can fight. I don't know. I'm really curious how this plays. Like, how reliable is it to have multiple sync creatures out? Because I don't see a lot of them. Maybe that's to fight against the complexity I was concerned about earlier. That the designer Inverted Vertex is where the same issue, and consciously has fewer sync creatures at common, so that things don't get too out of hand. But now that I see these spells, I really want to have enough that I can make a deck where I abuse, you know, these kinds of effects and feel very powerful and clever. I like this design a lot. This one I'm more okay with it just putting 1 level counter on instead of the 2 that I suggested on the other card, because the base effect is strong enough that I don't know you need the level up side to feel like the meat of the card like you do with Feel the Rush. Granting haste on is not worth a card. It's just not. And sometimes it's barely worth a cantrip. You know what I mean? This is generally worth a card. And so then having that nice bonus, I think, works well. There's more granting of hexproof. I wonder if that is a conscious thing too, because if you're dumping a bunch of mana into your level up guys, and then they respond by removing it, having ways to protect that creature might be important for positive play experiences. Although, is it really positive if your opponent feels like, oh great, I can't even, can't even remove their level up creature because it'll just end up getting rid of their bear instead. This might lead to too many unfun situations. The fact that it's a bear that can also grant hexproof to your bomb is, I don't know that that will lead to the funnest situations. Okay, that seems fine. I like that it just looks at the top 3 instead of goes through the whole deck. Saves some loading time from games. Okay, whenever this blocks. So here's a condition that isn't going to happen inevitably, but requires your opponent's cooperation. And one thing they could do to get around this is to just not attack into it at all until they have a flyer. And then your reach creature still doesn't have reach, which is a problem. Of course, you have other ways to deal with that. You have your aerial takedown. Other decks that don't have flyers won't care so much about attacking into it until it gets Death Touch. A 1/4 Death Touch for 3 becomes quite powerful because it can just kill 3/3s and things like that, which is, very valuable. An alternative to this would be whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you wanted to do something that you have a little more control over, or something that feels a little more inevitable. However, the bonus is big enough that I think it matches the condition. This is the kind of level up complexity I'm a bit worried about because your opponent has to track this. They have to be mindful of this. They don't want to create a 1/4 Death Touch. And it affects how they're going to be attacking. The other ones don't. Oh, this one also levels up to reach. 3/4 reach. I think both of the green ones leveling up to the same things. Reach and then reach plus other keyword isn't ideal. You want them to feel a little more different. They both have 4 toughness and they both have reach. I like this design better personally. Although I do like the idea of getting a 1/4 reach Death Touch. Like, that seems like a powerful payoff, but, well, yeah, I actually think I like that better than this because how important is it for your 3/4 to have trample? Are you really going to pay the 3 green mana for your 3/4 to have reach and trample? I can see you paying 1 green mana for it to have reach, but why would you go up to level 3? I don't know. I mean, if you start putting things like extreme evolution on it, then granting it trample, I can see that being important. Okay. The thing about sync is I think the cards that have it are going to necessarily look weak because the activated abilities can't be too cheap or too strong because there's always the possibility that like 3 or 4 of your creatures will all have that ability and various abilities. This one is actually pretty good by itself. Being able to attack as a 2/4 or threaten to attack as a 2/4 is quite good. Having this and various other sync creatures all attacking makes it very difficult to block because you can, whichever one they block, you can pump it up. And I think this shows the strength of sync and how difficult it is for an opponent to play around it. Well, that was a look at at Quasar. Let's, I guess we can try and make a deck. Okay, was there anything really great about blue here? Because I'm about to cut blue. It has a little bit of conditional removal. This would be great and sealed, and maybe we keep that, I don't know. And then that is kind of removal. But other than that, okay, what's great about black? That's nice. That we liked. This is great and sealed. I mean, that's fine. That is pretty good. Okay. This black was okay. I think Mind Rot's okay and sealed. Just trying to cut some colors here. What is white? White had some good removal. Yeah, it had 2 neutralizes. Had that card that was great. Yeah, I think we like white more than we like blue or black. These are good. I don't like those or that. Maybe one of those could be good. That was kind of fun. I would want to test it anyway. I like those. Might be good. Oh, this only burns. Huh. It's probably not worth a card. Pay 2 mana to deal 2 damage. Of course, if you gave it to all your sync creatures, then you can deal a lot more. But there's already a sync creature that does that. So I don't know. I just realized Planetside Trade goes well with Slag Heap Murderbot. Shocks are great. Yeah, I don't know about Run and Gun. I really liked that guy. These are still 3/4s for 4. I would test that. That is good. That's good. That is quite good. I don't know that I need to. Seems like there's a lot of granting of hexproof in this set. Probably too much. If there's 2 green commons that grant hexproof and blue has something that grants hexproof, it's probably too much. That seems like a sideboard card. That's quite strong. I'm still not sure about that card. We'll see how it goes. Alright. I really like that design. It might be okay. 2/5 for 4 is okay. Granting Vigilance is okay. Vigilance, First Strike, and Lifelink. That does seem good. I think I want at least 1, maybe 2. I don't think that's great. We don't have that many artifact creatures. Okay. I don't think we have much sync in the way of sync. I don't think we have any, actually. We have that 1 green one. One issue with sync that I see is a lot of the time, I bet there's only going to be 1 creature with sync on your side of the battlefield. Unless you are doing the sync deck. And by itself, sync doesn't do anything. You need, I mean, it's definitely a parasitic mechanic. Yeah, and I don't think any of those fit this stack. What's our card count? 31. That's not bad. Let's see where we're at here. We have a lot of 2-drops here. What activated abilities do we have that cost mana? A Vinewalker. That's not an activated ability. It's a trigger. The Striders. And the Kill Team. Wow, because we're all common. I was like, how come I have no 5 or 6 drops? And that is why. Well, I don't think we necessarily need those guys. I think these normal bears are probably better. I don't think we need that. We're not ramping much. Although that's a card I would want to test normally. It's kind of conditional there. I'm glad that this level up thing can only be done when you can cast a sorcery, because suddenly changing your guy to trample when you realize you can get some extra damage through might feel a little punishing towards your opponent. Just a couple cuts. What's our spell and creature count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That means we'd only have 14 creatures. I think cutting acquisition, perhaps, or mapping, because we really aren't leveling up very much. I mean, we're not ramping up very much. 8. Probably cutting that, because we're 3 colors, and I'm okay with doing 3 colors and sealed, because normally decks aren't tight and aggressive enough to punish you if you stumble on lands a bit. However, I do like the third splash to not be as intense as, I guess red is our third color. I'm not sure. A lot of the white stuff is non-creature spells, like what we could do. I still like splashing for this. We could cut Aerial Ranger and Leaper, an Overwatch unit, replace these 3 with red or green cards, and then have these white cards be, more conditional splash things. I think I like that. That probably helps the deck a lot. So what are red and green creatures that we cut? Aerial Ranger is really the only one that I'm really missing. That is a great card. And you know what? Maybe that's still splashable, because it's high on the curve. Yeah, maybe just a couple of kinetic agents. Okay, so that's my sealed. I think we probably want 3 planes. That's 14. 8, 6. Yeah, okay, so I think that's the deck. Anyway, this has been Quasar. This video probably went longer than I thought, but really interesting set. A lot of interesting visual decisions. I'm not sold on sync. I'm curious to see how Level Up plays, but this is a really cool set. I invite you to go check it out in the Project Spotlight here on the Discord, and thanks for watching.